Well, without any further ado, it is my pleasure and privilege to be able to introduce to you Brett Hollis. Brett and I are getting old together. Brett first spoke for me 25 years ago at Sand Hill Lake Bible Camp at a youth camp. Just to give you a little brief background, he's been a pastor, planted a church out in Washington, grew it to a great size, and blessed a lot of people. And Brett came to the Lord. He actually went out into the woods with a gun to kill himself and to commit suicide. And in the midst of about pulling the trigger, and there's a book about his life. It's on Amazon.com called Welcome Home. Actually pulled the trigger and had a revelation or a vision of Jesus. Gun didn't go off, and actually sat down and had a visitation with Jesus in the woods that changed his life. It's an amazing testimony, which he will share, not this coming Wednesday night, but the next Wednesday night. He's going to be here and share his testimony, how Jesus showed up in that critical point in his young life. And so he shared a camp. We've seen people change, transformed, and we've all gotten a little bit bigger over the years from what we were. But it's my privilege. He's also a comedian. He does all kinds of comedy for different things, for different organizations and stuff. Pastor, friend of mine. Let's give Brett Hollis a warm welcome as he shares with us this morning.
Thank you, Pastor Mike. Man, there is nothing like being introduced as overweight. You know, and I just want to thank you for that, Mike.
Hey,
there are a few things you can leave out in an introduction. You know, I have gained weight since we met 25 years ago. In fact, I was on a plane of course I was on one yesterday, but about 2 months ago, I was on this puddle jumper from Philadelphia to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and I get on the plane, and the seats are a lot smaller, you know, on these smaller planes, and I sit, and my seat assignment was next to a large man, and I sit next to him, and I'm trying to find my seat belt, and he goes, yeah, well, I guess we're not little boys, are we? And I was like, I didn't even know the guy, and I'm thinking, you speak for yourself, you know, I mean, you know. So I get the belt on, and I'm actually a tad bit offended that he would say that to me, because I'm like, you don't even know me. What, you know. The flight attendant comes down the row before the plane takes off. She comes down, she's checking seatbelts. She gets to me, and she goes, you got your seatbelt on? I said, yep. She goes, would you mind proving? I had to lift my stomach for her to see my seatbelt. I'm like, yeah, just a minute. There we go. Flop. Okay, good. I'm a little sad this thing is covered up. This window, I thought this was an aquarium when I walked in here. I was expecting to see the drummer swim out, you know. That's really nice. That's really, really neat. I don't know if you know this, but there are two wonderful women in this room. Now, I'm sure there's many more than that, but there are candy givers. I don't know if you know that there's a couple women here who give candy. I already was given candy. If you don't know who they are, I'm not going to tell you because I know they have more candy, and I thought maybe I could have it at the end of service. So, thank you. It is so great being here. Hey, can you just give a round of applause for your pastor and his wife? Aren't they amazing? You have some amazing pastors here, and I just think it's important that you acknowledge them on a regular basis of how God is using them in your life. So thank you. Thank you for your friendship. Thank you for everything the both of you, all of you here have been doing. My wife could not be with us here today, but you know, no matter how dedicated you are to church life, sometimes you don't want to go. And I just want to thank you that came today. I want to thank you because I know you could be doing something else, and I think it's great you came here. By the way, if you didn't notice, the second row is completely empty. If you feel like laying down, if you did not get enough rest last night, feel free to do that while we're together. I'll tell you about a time when my wife did not want to go to church on a Sunday. It was a Saturday night, and we were lying in bed, and we had an infant son at the time. Our boy now is 21, and we have a 19-year-old girl. By the time our son was just an infant, and we were laying in bed, it was me, my son, and my wife. Now, I know what's happening right now. There are some of you parents in this room going, you should never let your baby sleep in bed with you. That's just, you know, that's not a good idea, because once they start sleeping in bed with you, they'll never leave. Okay, stop judging me, number one. Secondly, my son is 21. The last place he wants to be right now is in bed between my wife and I. So I just want you to know, a day will come. It's okay. So we're lying in bed, lights are off, and the next thing I know, out of nowhere, my son just screams, "Ah!" And it woke me up. And then my wife, "Ah!" And they're both screaming. Now, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if someone has broken into the house. And I'm like, and I can't see anything. We don't have lamps next to our bed. I didn't have a flashlight. I didn't have a cell phone with a flashlight. I had to some way get to the light switch on the wall to figure out what they were screaming about. And they're both like, "Ah!" So I throw the sheets off, and I'm thinking, well, what if it is a bad guy? So I'm doing like Tae-Bo, on the way to the light switch, because I don't know what's going on. And I get there, I feel the wall, I turn on the lights, and I turn around like this, and there's nobody there. Just my wife and my son. "Ah!" They're laying in bed. And I look closely at my son, and it looks like he has a deformity on his head. And I get a little closer, and he has huge teeth marks on his forehead. And I'm like, is there a huge spider in this room? Well, I didn't know what was going on. And I picked him up, and I'm rocking him, and he's, "Ah!" And it looked like he had two mouths. He's like, "Ah, ah, ah." And my wife is screaming and crying. And I said, what happened? And my wife starts taking deep breaths. And she's like, and pretty soon she's got tears coming down her face. Pretty soon my wife goes, "I bit him." Yeah. Now, if you're sitting here confused, you should put yourself in my position. And I'm looking at my son, and I say to my wife, "Why? Are you hungry? Do you want a granola bar?" I had no idea. Why would you do this? And I'm looking, and the teeth marks are deep. Now, I didn't say this out loud, but I'm thinking, man, if she ever needs dentures, we could just use forehead for molding, because those are... I was tempted to plug his nose and his ears and blow through his mouth, see if I could get it pop back out. I'm looking at my wife. I said, "Why?" And she catches her breath. She says, I was having a nightmare, and this man had his arm around my neck, and he was strangling me. And I went to bite his arm, but Brady's head was there. I'm like, oh. And then she's like, "I'm not going to church tomorrow. I'm not leaving this house until his head heals." And I was like, well, we might want to talk homeschooling, because they're pretty deep, honey. And I'm sitting there, and I'm trying to rock my son, and she's freaking out. And, she got offended when I started wearing a helmet to bed. But, you got to take care of yourself. You got to protect yourself, And I'll tell you this, the only positive I could get out of this whole thing was, for the next 3 weeks, anytime my wife got mad at me, I'd just say, "Well, don't bite my head off. I mean, come on. Leave me alone." No, I realize she's not here to defend herself. She sends her greetings, by the way. She's not here to defend herself. But let me just say this publicly, since I told you that story. My wife is an amazing woman. She's a wonderful lady. In fact, she's not only a great wife, she is, I would say, a better parent than me. If my kids were here, they would vouch for you. She has made a much bigger impression on them than I ever have. So, anyhow, it's still, I realize it's early in the morning. I realize, okay, well, I don't know if you heard this in the news, but NASCAR driver Dale Earnhardt Jr. has just announced, he announced this, I think it was back in March, that when he dies, he is actually going to be donating his brain to science research for concussions. And he said in the report that he got the idea from some NFL players who have declared the same thing, that they too will be donating their brains, and a professional soccer player. And it's really, really catching on. In fact, it's become so popular that at least one, if not both, of our presidential candidates have already donated their brains. So it's really, really catching on that way. So my shirt, I wore a suit jacket over my shirt today because my shirt, although I ironed it last night, did I not, Mike? I ironed my shirt last night. It's wrinkled. The the sign on the package said wrinkle free. And now I'm beginning to realize that means they do not charge you for them. All the wrinkles are free. There's no extra charge for sure. My wife's in charge of purchasing me my clothes because anytime I pick something out, she doesn't like it. And so she does the picking. And she bought me a new shirt not too long ago. It's not this one. It's a sporty golf shirt, right? I'm not a golfer, but I look like one when I wear the shirt. And I put the shirt on for the first time. We were heading to this big get-together, and I leave the house, and we get in the car, and I look down, and there's dog hair all over my shirt. Anybody here have a dog, and you leave the house, and now there's dog hair everywhere? I was like, oh, man. And I started brushing, and it wasn't coming off, and so I grabbed it, and I pulled it. It was my stomach hair sticking through the shirt. It was the grossest thing you've ever... It looked like I was trying to smuggle a porcupine. You know, it's like, you know. So, for your viewing pleasure, I did wear layers today. I do have a T-shirt underneath this and brought the jacket. So, I don't usually make judgments about other people's clothing. I'm not really the type that pays attention too much, but there is a pet peeve I have. It drives me crazy when, say, you go to a restaurant or a public place and someone has just come from karate class and they're wearing their karate gi as though their sensei did not give them enough time to change in class before they come to the restaurant. And it just bothers me. And I'll be standing there in line and I'll look over and listen, I try to be a good, loving Christian guy, a non-judgmental guy, but sometimes I'll look over at these people and honestly I say to myself, I could take them. You know what I mean? And, you know. And I want so bad to just go over and jump in the air and do a roundhouse kick right in front of their face. You know, just see what they would do. But their parents are usually standing right there, and it's like, you know, I don't want to be embarrassed about it, you know. But my wife doesn't trust me with shopping except food shop. I love to grocery shop. I don't know how many of you like to grocery shop, but grocery shopping... Do you guys have out here in your produce department where they do fake thunder and lightning and rain onto their food? Okay, first time I ever saw this, it scared me half to death. I'm in the produce department by the lettuce waiting for my wife. I'm like, oh, man, you know, your roof's leaking. I mean, I had no idea what was going on. Now that has become one of my favorite things. I actually wait for it to go. But here's the thing I've learned. I have to be real quick or I can never finish washing my hair. So you gotta just jump in there and do it right. But grocery shopping is different than any other kind of shopping. You go into a department store and the first thing they say, oh, what are you looking for? And here, let me help you find that. You go to a car lot. You're barely out of your car in the parking lot and you got some guy standing there, hey, what are you looking for? I'd love to show you some vehicles. Not so at a grocery store. You walk into a grocery store and they just sort of leave you on your own and see how well you do. Have you noticed this? This is why the first thing they ask you when you get in their line is, did you find everything okay? I got so tired of this that there was a young sales clerk there doing all of my stuff, and I got so tired of this that I wanted to ask her a sincere question. I wasn't trying to be funny and sassy or whatever, but she says, did you find everything okay? Beep. And I said, I did, but what if I didn't? And this is what she said. Beep. So is this just a big game to you guys? You know, I've been here since Tuesday. I just found the ham. How does that make you feel? And the thing is, grocery workers there, at the checkout stand, they are trained to develop a friendship with you before you get through their line. So in that short period of time, they're trained to say things to you that would really spark a good relationship. And so what they do is they try to guess things about you by what you have on the belt there. So let's say, for example, you have some candy and popcorn and pop. They go, beep. Oh, somebody's going to have a party tonight. Beep. You're like, wow, yeah, you got me. You know, or you might have like ingredients up there and they beep. Oh, somebody's going to do some baking, huh? And you're like, yeah, well, you know, beep. You ever notice they have nothing to say when you have a bunch of toilet paper up on that thing? It's just like this awkward silence, you know? Like, hope you feel better. Beep, you know. And you can't really blame them because I believe that toilet paper companies have done a horrible job in advertising their product. This is why on the front of all toilet paper, we have pictures of puppies, babies, and bears. The only three who don't use toilet paper. It's crazy. Well, I did fly here yesterday. You know, flying obviously 15 years ago changed forever. Driving has also changed. I was on the freeway back home with my daughter. It was late one night. I have a King Cab truck. She was sitting in the back seat. She had been quiet the whole time on the whole ride. It was just her and I. We were getting close to our exit, and so I put on the blinker, and I go to turn over to the next lane, and my daughter yells, "Dad, wait, no!" And I swear back because I thought, well, maybe someone's in my blind spot or whatever. I'm like, what? She goes, "I'm not finished." She was watching a movie in the SUV in front of us. The screen was down. I'm like, it's my favorite part. You can't even hear it. You know, what's it going to be like? I follow them all the way to their house, you know. Sorry, I'm not weird. My daughter just wanted to finish a movie. Thank you. We'll be going now. Thank you. I'm going to give you a confession about driving today. Here's a little confession. My brother, I have an older brother who is a pastor in Washington. He and I, since we were 16, we have had a struggle with our right foot being heavier than our left foot when we're in a driver's seat. And we have had, actually you could say it this way, we've had the privilege of meeting some very nice officers all over Washington State. We don't try to, it's not some contest, it's just the way it is. And we still kind of have this problem. So this is my confession. But every year in October, my entire family, my parents and me and my family and my brother and his family, we all drive to the other side of the state and we go deer hunting. And my brother lives near my parents, so they were all convoying together, and I was meeting them in this little town at a gas station. And when we got to this little gas station early in the morning, my mom's standing there, and she goes, "Did you hear what your brother did?" And I said, "No." She says, "He got a speeding ticket on the way here." And I went, and she's like, "Oh, you think this is funny?" Now, you have to understand I'm in my 40s, right? And moms will always be moms, no matter what. She goes, "You think this is funny?" Well, I didn't do anything. Why are you yelling at me, right? So we leave the store. We all go to the cabin. We hunt for a week. Finally, one night, we all decide to go into town to have some dinner. Get done with dinner. We all get in our separate vehicles. And I pull out of the place, and I'm heading out of town. And all of a sudden, red and blue lights come on behind me. And my wife is furious. My kids are giggling. And I pull over. And this police officer comes up to me. As he's walking up to my car, my brother passes by. And he's like, so the police officer comes up to my window, and he shines a light in my eyes, and he says, "How much have you had to drink tonight?" I said, "I haven't had anything to drink." He goes, "Sir, how much have you had to drink tonight?" I said, "I have not had anything to drink." Next thing I know, my parents drive by, and my mom's like, I said, "Sir, I have not had anything to drink tonight." He goes, "I saw you come out of that bar." I said, "No, I was in the restaurant party." He says, "You came out of the bar, you did an illegal U-turn in town, and you have crossed the center line 5 times coming out of town." And I thought, I was looking for deer, because sometimes deer will sit in people's yards. And I was like, there's one, there's one, there's one. And he goes, "Plus your tabs are expired." He was going to give me a $600 ticket. And then he says, "Oh, you're up here deer hunting?" And I said, "Yeah, he's a deer hunter." So he lets me off, right? I get off. I get back to the cabin. You got to remember, I'm in my 40s. I walk into the cabin with my family. My kids are with me. My brother is sitting in the corner in a chair just with this big grin on his face. I walk in, and my mom is standing. She's 70 years old. She's standing in the middle of the kitchen, tapping her foot like this. And she says, "What am I going to do with you?" My kids are giggling. I was like, "What do you mean?" She goes, "What am I going to do with you boys?" I said, "What are you talking about?" She goes, "When are you going to start learning not to speed anymore?" I said, "Oh, no, I was pulled over for drunk driving. Don't start." Don't be judging me. She's a great mom, though. She did her very best raising us. She's tried to teach us all the lessons you need to know. You know, one of her big things was the proper way to sneeze. You don't sneeze into your hand. You sneeze into your arm. You cover your sneeze. And I find this interesting because sneezing is a phenomenon to me. I think sneezing is one of the strangest things we have happen in social settings. Because, first of all, every one of us have kind of our own sneeze. We all have different sneezes. There's what I call like the little mouse sneeze. It's a right? And it's, oh, that's cute. You know, there's what I call the karate sneeze. Ah! You know, and it scares everybody around. You have no idea. There's, I think, a lot of farmers like this one. There's what I call the sprinkler sneeze, where they go, You have that person that borrows all the air in the room for a little bit, says, I'll give it right back. And what's weird is anytime someone sneezes, everyone wants to bless them. Like they achieved some big goal, right? Most of us try not to sneeze, but we get blessed when we do. And you can be on a bus, not know anyone. Someone sneezes, bless you, bless you. Guy in the red shirt, bless you. God forbid you sneeze in church. Everyone tries to one-up each other. Bless you by the Lord. Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, bless you. Everyone's being blessed. Some people don't even bless their food at dinner time, but they'll bless a stranger if they sneeze. My mom, now she has the weirdest one. My mom has always tried to stop her sneeze. So if it's coming on, she holds it. And it sounds, I think the best way I can describe it, it sounds like Daffy Duck getting hit by a truck. It's like, and every time she does this, like guys get big, feet swell, you know, it's like, what? But and the thing is with that sneeze is she never gets a blessing because no one knows what just happened. She'll be around, people are like, what was that? I don't know. I was in an important meeting one night. There's a bunch of people in this room, and I had a sneeze come on. And I remembered what my mom did. And I thought, well, if my mom thinks it's good, maybe I'll try it. I want to tell you something. I held my sneeze, and I will never do that again. Can I tell you this? That sneeze is coming out. It may not come out your face, but it's coming out. Bless you, thank you, bless you. It's a scary thing. I mentioned I have a dog. I have a German Shepherd dog. Beautiful dog. But I got this dog because the breeder said to me, listen, these dogs are some of the smartest dogs. He said, not only are they smart, but their noses are like 100,000 times more powerful than a human nose. He said, your dog can sniff character through a wall. He said, someone can walk up to your house and your dog can be inside and he can sense their character just by smelling. And I'm like, I want a dog like that. That would be cool. I think that'd just be a great thing to have. So I get this dog. Every time I take him outside to do his thing, I get him on a leash, I'll walk him out. He will walk in circles for about 10 minutes until he finds the perfect section of grass, and then he does that thing. When he's done, every time when he's done, he stands up and he starts sniffing in a circle until he finds it, and he acts surprised. And it's always this, how did that get there? You know, it's that sort of look. And I'm like, are you kidding me? You made that. You can smell character through a wall, but you can't tell you did that, and I'm here choking 5 feet away. Now, he's not a very smart dog. I think I got a defective one. But how many of you would agree that a dumb dog is better than a smart cat any day? Okay, now, we have 2 cats. I was bored one day, and I was looking at the litter bag, and I was just reading the back of it. That's what I do when I'm bored. And the Tidy Cat bag said this: encourage your cat to come inside and use a litter box. Okay, why would I call my cat all the way in from my neighbor's yard to come into my house? Okay? And secondly, have you ever tried to encourage a cat to do anything? My cat will be laying on my recliner. I leave for work. I come back 8 hours later in the same, it's like a memory foam cat. It's in the same position. And I'm like, move, get up. And he'll look up at me like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I'll push him off the chair, and there's a ring of hair that somehow fell off during that aggressive activity of sleeping. It drives me nuts when people say to me, I'm going to go take a cat nap. I don't even know what that means. Are you going to sleep in the windowsill or on my car? What is a cat nap? It can't certainly mean a quick nap, because the shortest nap I've ever seen a cat take is 12 hours. So it can't possibly mean that. My cat was 21 pounds. 21 pounds. Listen to this. When he walked, his stomach swayed. I know, Mike, you're like, oh, like you. No. His stomach swayed, but his stomach would literally drag on the ground. He was so fat. Now, I know some of you are like, that's kind of animal cruelty. I don't think that's funny. Well, you know what? We like to feed our cat. He wasn't very active, but listen to this. That worked perfectly for us. Anytime we were having company come over and we need to get the floors cleaned really quick, I take out a laser pointer. Man, that cat, he cleaned that floor. He was better than a Swiffer, man. I mean, he just got every corner. I could get cobwebs out of the corner. There you go, there you go, there you go. I mean, it worked perfect. Beautiful. Beautiful. Pastoring, it's funny when you talk about heaven or hell and you talk about eternal life. It was fascinating to me how many people over the years, their biggest concern about death, biggest concern was, will my pets be in heaven? I had people come to me all the time. I just need to know, will my pets be in heaven? And I want you to know, I too have that same concern. I don't want my pets in heaven. I don't want cat hair floating around, getting all over my robes and stuff. I mean, come on. So now I have this dog. This is a different dog. This was a boxer dog. And he was normally pretty well behaved. But this one day he did something very, very bad. And my daughter was 7 years old, and she was standing there. And look, parents, we all make mistakes, right? You say things you shouldn't say. Sometimes in your anger, you say something you regret. This was one of those times. This is another confession. I got so angry at my dog that I turned to my 7-year-old daughter and I said, Heather, don't let Disney fool you. Not all dogs go to heaven. There's a doghouse in hell for this one. I know you didn't have me come to do a parenting class. I realize that. And all of a sudden, tears start welling up in my daughter's eye, and I look at my wife, and she's like, what are you doing? And, as a good dad, I'm trying to make up for it. So I'm like, oh, honey. And she starts crying. So this is how I made up. I said, honey, their hell's different than ours. It's not as hot. He's got short hair. He'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be all right. So I wasn't the best dad. I wasn't the best pastor. But I have had a lot of experiences pastoring. Let me tell you this one. I had a young couple come to the church, and my assistant at the time comes to me, and she says, Brett, we have a new couple here at the church. They'd like to meet you, and they'd like to talk about church membership and how maybe they can be involved in helping out. They have real interest in the youth. I said, okay, well, let's make an appointment. So my assistant makes this appointment, and I'm waiting, and I was all excited about this appointment because I had just got new furniture in my office. My wife had helped me pick out this nice new red leather couch. It had silver handrails on it. It was just really neat. And then I had a black leather chair here and a black leather chair there. So I was excited. It was one of my first appointments with my new furniture. And this couple comes, and there's a window in my office, large window, and then I can see into the main office. And the main office door opens, and this man holds the door, and here comes this woman coming through the door, very, very pregnant. And she's walking like this, and I'm like, oh, my. She gets to my office, and I say, hi, I'm Pastor Brett. Come on in, come on in. And they sat on the couch, and my assistant sat in the one chair, and I sat in the other. And I was like, wow, when do you do? She goes, well, actually, I'm due any minute. And I said, we could reschedule. I'm okay with that. We can reschedule. She goes, no, we've been waiting for this point. We'd really love to meet with you. Okay. So we're talking along, and pretty soon she goes, and she touches her stomach. And I went, and I look at my assistant to see what she's doing, And we look at each other, and I was like, you sure you're okay? Yeah, it's just, yeah, I'm fine. Okay. So we talk a few more minutes, and pretty soon she, I said, you know what? Why don't we just reschedule this? I would feel better about it. And her husband says, honey, are you sure you're okay? She goes, yeah, I forgot to tell you, I've been having contractions all day. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? Let's change it. No, I want to. Okay, 5 more minutes goes by, and all of a sudden she goes, and she stands up and she goes, oh, my water broke. Ah! And I look at my couch. And there's a puddle of water on my new couch. And her pants are soaking wet. Now, I don't always say what I'm thinking. In this incident, this is what I was thinking. I didn't say it, but I'm looking at that. I'm like, that's not normal water, is it? Does that stain? I mean, I was just like, that. She starts, and she goes, call the doctor. So her husband gets on the phone. He's calling the doctor. And my assistant says, I'll go get paper towels. I'm like, okay. And she leaves. I'm like, why? I mean, I was like, so now I feel alone. And this woman's, And I said to her, I go, should I rub something? I don't know what to do. And she said, oh, the baby's coming. So the husband then takes the phone and he hands it to me and he says, you talk to the doctor. And I'm like, why me? I don't know. Why me? He said, please talk to him. And he starts to comfort her, and she's screaming. I'm like, hello, this is Brett Hollis. And I'm pacing to the other side of my office, and the doctor goes, this is Dr. Jones. What's going on there? I said, your patient's having a baby in my office. She starts screaming. I look out the window. My assistant comes out. You know those paper towels that are tightly wrapped? They blow up out in the air, and I'm like, get in here. She's going to have a baby. Go. Come on. I'm on the phone. The doctor says, okay, sir, there's 2 things we can do. We can either have the ambulance come, or you can drive her here yourself. I said, no, bring the ambulance. She starts screaming. He says, I need your address. I forgot it. I'm frantic. I'm like, I don't know where we are. And I find a business card, and I start naming off the address to him. And she's screaming. He says, sir, you need to calm down. I'm like, calm down. Your patient's in my office having a baby. He goes, sir, you're going to have to be calm. Pretty soon I hear my assistant yell at me, and she says, Pastor Brett, you got to get off the phone and deliver this baby now. And I turn around, and the husband has the left leg, and my assistant has the right leg. Now, she's still got her pants on, but I look, and my thought was, you can't be naked in my office. I'm a pastor. What are you doing? I didn't say it. But I said, I covered the phone. I said, why me? You got to deliver this baby. I'm like, I don't even know her. Why am I delivering the baby? You've got to do this. And so they're screaming so loud, I can't hear the doctor. I step out of my office. I said, Doc, you got to come down. And he goes, sir, if you don't calm down right now, I'm going to have you hand the phone back to her husband. I'm going to have him slap you. And I just looked at the phone. And I said, what? And I turned and I looked through my window. And here's my assistant, the woman, and her husband. And they're all dancing. And I walked in and I said, what's going on? And they said, April Fools, we got you. I said, that's not funny. I said, what about the, I'm pregnant. I'm 9 months pregnant. I said, what about the water? And she goes, she pulls a sandwich baggie out of her pants. And she goes, I had it filled with water, and I just popped it when the time was right. Who does that? Who carries baggies of water and says, now would be a good time, and just blows it in their pants? Who does that? I said, what about the doctor? Oh, that's my dad. He played along with us. Okay. I said, you know what? Here, let me tell you a couple things. I said, number one, you'll never be a member of this church. I said, number two, I don't even know if you're going to heaven. So, six months later, I hired him as my youth pastor, so it worked out very nice. You know, things come up in life that are unexpected. Things come up that scare us, surprise us. And I want you to know, talk about someone having a baby. About 2,000 years ago, there was a woman, a young virgin, who had a baby in a manger. And it was no ordinary baby. His name was Jesus. And he was actually God in the flesh. God came in the flesh so that you could be okay through any surprise that comes your way, through any pain that comes your way. so that he could come and he could destroy the works of the enemy, because we have a real enemy here in this world, and his name's Satan. And Jesus came to this earth so that he could destroy the work. And he came as a baby, as he could relate to us. And he walked this earth, and he got these 12 disciples, and he discipled them, and he taught people about heaven, and he taught people about the Father, and he taught people about how they can have joy in the midst of trials. And he taught them how they can know whether they're going to heaven or not one day. And the interesting thing is he came as a baby, and yet he taught about being born again. He said, you can never see the kingdom of God unless you're born again. And people are like, well, what do you mean born again? He's not talking about being born again physically, but born again on the inside. That when someone turns their life to Jesus and says, Jesus, I believe that you are my Lord and Savior. I believe you're the only one for me. He says, the Spirit of God will come into your heart and will cleanse you of your sin, forgive you of your sin, purify you from all unrighteousness, and will let you start all over again. And it's such a beautiful story, because one of the things that Jesus said is the devil came to steal, kill, and destroy, but I came that you might have life and have it abundantly. And I look around this room today, and I wonder how many people in this room have realized what Jesus came to do for you, and that you can be saved. You can be saved from yourself. You can be saved from your past. You can be saved from the power of sin. You can be saved from death. And that not only that, but there's a package deal here. I mean, you ever take your kids to McDonald's and they accidentally forget to put the toy in the Happy Meal? That's devastating to a kid, because they get everything but the toy. And yet I think there are some people here that in their package deal with Jesus, they're living life as though, well, I believe in Jesus, so now I know I'll go to heaven one day, when there's so much more to the package. Some of you are a toy shy of a Happy Meal. Some of you are walking through life saying, one day I'm going to go to heaven, but right now I don't have any joy, I don't have any peace, and Jesus came so that you could have all that. It's part of the package. Today it's a real simple thing. It's simple in the sense that Jesus said, whoever calls on my name will be saved. And as we bring a close to this service today, I've had fun, we've laughed, we've enjoyed some jokes, some stories. But what I'm saying right now is no joke. It's a beautiful, powerful message, and it's very simple. You don't get to heaven by your good looks. You don't get to heaven by your good deeds. You get to heaven by what Jesus did for you, dying on the cross, being the only sacrifice for your sins. And when you put your faith in him, you get to start all over. Wouldn't you like a new beginning? Wouldn't you like to be able to forget all the stupid mistakes you've made and all the things that have happened in the past and be able to start all over? Well, today is your day, because you have opportunity to do that today. So as we bring to close this service, I'm gonna ask you to stand to your feet at this time.